I think he was pretty fortunate. No ligament damage, no artery damage, no nerve damage. All right, welcome in. It's the Breer Report for October the 18th. We're looking ahead to the bulk of Week 7. Week 7 is actually already underway. The Broncos go into the Superdome and beat the Saints soundly in Sean Payton's return to New Orleans. And our first topic for this week will be on the Sunday night game. And we got this thing covered from both angles. On the Jets side, this will be the debut for Davante Adams. He is expected to play a significant role in the Jets offense. And one thing that really helps, of course, is the familiarity that Davante has with the coaching staff in New York and with, of course, the quarterback. He was with Nathaniel Hackett in Green Bay. He was with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and the system they're running in New York is similar, some differences, but similar to the one that they ran in Green Bay. And the terminology is almost identical. So it's given Davante the chance to hit the ground running over the last few days as he's gotten his feet wet and becoming a New York Jet. And as to how this all came together, if you want to go back, a couple of weeks, this really hadn't gotten off the ground. In fact, the Jets didn't even make a hard offer to the Raiders until last week after Robert Saleh was fired. The framework of the deal came into place on the afternoon of the Jets' Monday game against the Bills. The framework was in place right before the kickoff. Jets GM Joe Douglas called the Raiders after the Jets lost to the Bills to accept the terms of the deal. And now Davante Adams is a New York Jet. And that word I used earlier, familiarity, is a really important one when you're talking about this move. Aaron Rodgers is like a lot of other quarterbacks who've been in his position in the past. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, very exact in what they want from their receivers. Very tough on the skill players as far as where they're supposed to be. If a guy, they wanted it 9 yards, that doesn't mean 10, that doesn't mean 8. They wanted it 9 yards. I think that's led to some bumps as he's tried to grow a relationship with Garrett Wilson. We saw him call out Mike Williams publicly. He already has Allen Lazard in-house. He had Randall Cobb there last year. And having Davante Adams, of course, gives him a higher level of player based on where Lazard is in his career, where Cobb was in his career a year ago. Adams is on the back end. He's not what he was before. Doesn't quite have the run after catch ability that he had early in his career. But he's still a high level player and brings that level of chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. Now, on the other side of the Sunday night matchup, of course, the story is the quarterbacks, plural. Mike Tomlin, as of Friday morning, had not yet told Justin Fields and Russell Wilson who is starting the game, but the actions of the coaching staff in practice, the way they're repping in practice, has telegraphed the decision that they will give Russell Wilson a chance. Now, why do this? I think that's the first question. I think part of it is you want to give yourself a full view of what you've got at quarterback going into the back half of the year. And they know what they've got in Justin Fields through 6 games. He's 4-2 as the starter. He's brought a lot to their running game. He's had some ups and downs as a passer, but he's come along in that area too. You don't know what you have in Russell Wilson. And the trouble is if you stick with Justin Fields here, and you don't go to Russell Wilson, well, that might be it for Russell Wilson with the Steelers. Whereas if you go with Russell now and you give it a shot and you kick the tires on it, you can always go back to Justin. And oh, by the way, I would not rule that out at all. Justin Fields still has plenty of support in that building. There are lots of people in that place that really thought that Justin Fields should remain the starter. I don't doubt that they're going to rally and see what they've got they've got with Russell Wilson, but that does not signify any lack of belief in Justin Fields, any lack of belief that Justin Fields has a bright future in Pittsburgh, or that he doesn't have a future this year as a starting quarterback. I certainly think there's a chance he could wind up being the starting quarterback down the road, and maybe not even too far down the road. All right, our second topic for today, that Lions-Minnesota game, which everyone is looking forward to. The Lions come in with just one loss. The Vikings come in undefeated. We'll be missing one significant star, and that's Aidan Hutchinson. Obviously, a horrible injury when he wrapped his own leg around Liam McNeil in the game in Dallas on Sunday night. So you don't want to say anything is lucky about the circumstance that Aidan Hutchinson is in. But just as far as the fallout from it, I think he was pretty fortunate. And that is through some background that I've been able to get that we delivered on the Thursday night post-game show last night. Um, the first piece of good fortune was where the injury happened. He's in Arlington, Texas. He's 10 minutes away from one of the best trauma centers in the country, a level 1 trauma center at the Baylor Medical Center. Number 2, at the Baylor Medical Center, there's a doctor by the name of Alan Jones. He is one of the preeminent doctors when it comes to tibia and fibula breaks, one of the best surgeons in that area. Aidan Hutchinson was in surgery less than 3 hours after he went down, so was able to get immediate care and the best care. And then number 3, no ligament damage, no artery damage, no nerve damage. So this was about as clean a break as you can possibly happen. So what does that mean going forward? Well, that means there's far less chance of any complications going forward or setbacks in his rehab. And that makes the front end of his timetable, the 4 to 6 months timetable, more likely. And 4 months would put him right at the Super Bowl. My understanding is there is very much a chance that he winds up playing in the Super Bowl if the Lions can make it that far. But even if he doesn't play in the Super Bowl, this obviously would indicate that he's going to get a full off season, which is big too. Generally, the month of March is a little bit of a slower one for NFL players. So he would have February and March, and then, the off season program kicks off in April. And the thinking is that he'll be fully ready to go, which in turn could help him get a new contract. And, obviously the relationship between the team and player is a big part of this as well. Hats off to the Lions for handling it the way that they did, in sending a private jet to go and get Aidan Hutchinson on Tuesday and bring him home to Detroit. How fast he got home, less than 48 hours after, is also a good sign for where he's at physically. And hats off to the Dallas Cowboys too. My understanding is Dr. Cooper, their head physician, was integral in making sure that Aidan Hutchinson got out of there in a timely fashion and got the best possible care, which again was at that Baylor Medical Center, where Dr. Alan Jones is. And so good news going forward for Aidan Hutchinson, and maybe Aidan Hutchinson is playing in Super Bowl 59. Again, the Lions got to get there first. Finally, our third topic for today, this concerns perhaps the marquee matchup of the weekend. That's the Chiefs and the 49ers meeting in a rematch of Super Bowl 58. Everybody's looking forward to this one. And one of the big picture things that we're all going to be looking at when we're watching this game is where the Chiefs are at the skill positions. Obviously, they've had their issues. Rashee Rice is hurt. Hollywood Brown is hurt. It seems unlikely that either of those guys come back. I know the way the Chiefs view it is if they get either of those guys back during the 2024 season, it would be a bonus. So the big question has been what they're going to do at the receiver position and if they're going to add somebody. Davante Adams was never on the table for them. The Raiders were never going to trade him in division to the Chiefs. Amari Cooper might have been. He's off the table now. So would the Chiefs look at bringing in somebody else? Deontay Johnson or Adam Thielen out of Carolina, DeAndre Hopkins or Treylon Burks out of Tennessee? My answer to that would be maybe. The Chiefs' plan after Rashee Rice went down a couple of weeks ago was to take a deep breath and look at what they had at the receiver position and see what they could get out of Xavier Worthy and Juju Smith-Schuster, and whether or not they felt like that would be enough to make a real run at a third consecutive Super Bowl title. They're still in that process, and they've still got a couple of weeks before the trade deadline. Remember, we're still more than 2 weeks away from that. So I think one thing to watch in this game against San Francisco is what it looks like out there. Now, Juju looked great the last time out. The Chiefs have had this effect that the Patriots used to have when Tom Brady was the quarterback there, where they could get more out of skill guys because of the quarterback. So Juju Smith-Schuster has flashed. You figure Xavier Worthy will come along and continue to come along as an explosive weapon as a rookie. But I think the question becomes, what does this look like against the better teams in the league? What does this look like if you're playing Buffalo in the playoffs? You're playing Cincinnati in the playoffs. You're playing Baltimore in the playoffs. You're playing Houston in the playoffs. What does this look like? And that's why I think this week's game is so interesting from a Chiefs perspective, not just in the small picture because they're undefeated and you like to keep winning, but also what it's going to mean for them going forward and how they approach their roster as we get closer to that November 5th trade deadline. That's all we got for this week. Enjoy week 7, everybody. Should be a fun Sunday. And we'll be back here with you for next Tuesday's Breer Report.